hours and bistoma up to more than 2 years in some true salamanders, Salamandra genus. They're stored in a structure that's called a spermatheca. And the spermatheca is homologous to the male pelvic gland. Right? So in the male, it forms the pelvic gland that secretes the substance that mixes with the sperm and holds it in place. In the female, that same tissue turns into a storage place for sperm, the spermatheca. Right? So she now has the sperm inside her. They are stored in her spermatheca. When she ovulates, the egg is going to come down through the cloaca, because remember, they've only got the one opening. The egg comes down through the cloaca. The sperm are in the spermatheca. They all get together inside the cloaca, and fertilization occurs internally. She then releases that fertilized egg into the water. So they're oviparous. She's releasing a fertilized egg. Right? She's releasing an egg, period. And it happens to be fertilized because they have internal fertilization, even though they don't have any copulatory organ. It's a unique way of doing sex among the vertebrates. Okay, so as we said, practically all salamanders are oviparous. Most will have an aquatic larval stage, although some do have direct development. I don't know if I had it in the course pack who does, but one major group with direct development are the Plethodonid salamanders, the Plethodonidae. So these animals can lay their eggs, some of them can lay their eggs on land, let's say in a rotting log or something like that, a very moist environment. And then what will hatch out of the egg is not a tadpole. Instead, what hatches out of the egg is a miniature little salamander. So they're having direct development from the egg to the adult, instead of having that intermediate stage of a larval form. So most are oviparous, most have aquatic larvae, but some can do direct development. Okay, Anurans. In contrast, with Anurans, internal fertilization is rare. And there's only one species with a copulatory organ, an intromittent organ. Well, actually it's up to 2 species. What family?
Escaphidae?
Yeah, the Escaphidae, so the tailed frogs that we talked about, right, in lab last time. We were throwing up pictures. I know a lot of you laughed, that's okay. Right. Their copulatory organ is simply a permanent outgrowth of the cloaca in the male. And so the females don't have it, but the males have a permanent outgrowth. That's as opposed to the apodans. We said that they're going to use the cloaca as well as an intromittent or copulatory organ, but they actually extrude the lower end of the cloaca at the time of mating. In the Escaphidae, the only group of frogs that has a copulatory organ, it's a permanent structure, permanently external in the males. And the reason I said 2 species, it seems like they're now saying that what used to be Ascaphus truei in the West is actually 2 species, with one along the coast and one up in the mountains. So I think the other one's being called Ascaphus montanus. Okay. Internal fertilization does occur in a small number of other species, at least 3, perhaps more. They don't have a copulatory organ, but the way that they're going to accomplish internal fertilization is through cloacal apposition. I know what that means. Yep. So all it is the male is going to put his cloaca right up next to the cloaca of the female, and the sperm will pass directly from one cloacal opening through the other cloacal opening. That is cloacal apposition. So internal fertilization is rare. only the one group has a copulatory organ. There's a few others that have it, and they accomplish it through cloacal apposition. So that means that external fertilization is the most common among the anurans, and therefore they are oviparous. Most are going to have an aquatic larval stage, tadpole. There's a few that have direct development. There are a few that are viviparous, but again, that's in the minority. If you want to characterize anurans, they have external fertilization, they are oviparous, and they have aquatic larvae. That's a generality that hits well over 90% of anurans. Now, salamanders had a courtship. Courtship may or may not be involved in the anurans. It would probably, if we had to say, to make a generality, more often than not, they do not have courtship. But they will do a particular behavior that differs from the other groups, and that behavior is called amplexus. So at the time of mating, the male will come up and grab the female and hang on. And he may hang on for 1 to 2 hours or perhaps days, depending on the species and the mood of the female. So she may move around and feed, and he's essentially attached to her. He's grabbed onto her and he's not letting go. Right? So he's waiting for her to release her eggs into the water, and when she does, he's there and releases his sperm. Okay? Yeah, let's see. Amplexus, the details of it differ in differing groups of amphibians. So just how the male is grabbing the female does differ. They don't all do it in the same way. And so this is showing you A through E, different ways in which amplexus is occurring. F is showing you cloacal apposition. Right, so how you can get that internal fertilization without having a copulatory organ. And over on the side, you can see sex in escapus. So the male is using that extension of his cloaca, inserting that into the cloaca of the female in order to get internal fertilization. All right, so a lot of cool pictures in the handouts. Questions on evolution of amphibians and reproductive patterns. So next time we'll carry on and talk about different systems in amphibians and finish up amphibians talking about the details of metamorphosis, how they're going from an aquatic larvae up to the adult. So today in lab, it is review for the exam. Remember, the exam will start at 9:45. And your key is due. So when you walk in the door, you can hand me that key that you're developing. After about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to throw up a mess of slides and see whether or not you can identify the different groups. We went through some orders and families last time. We will go through those again. Those of you that weren't here will see it for the first time. But then I also have maybe 20, 30 on Michigan species. So I'll see whether or not you can identify those as well. Right. It's just good review. Questions? Okay.
Dogs are, they're so cute.